Hi, I'm Tucker,
And I'm Sammy.
and this is English After Dark. Today, we're going to walk through Sammy's language learning journey.
And some of your language learning journey too.
Yeah, I'm also learning a language, but since this is about English, my language has been Portuguese. I've been learning Portuguese, and it's helped me actually learn my own language, but the focus today is going to be you. So, obviously, she's my wife, and I know how long she's been learning English for, but there's still some things I don't know.
Tell me.
So, when you first started learning English, I knew you were a kid. You've
Mhm.
mentioned it on here,
Yes.
and your dad had a bookstore.
Yes, that's correct.
But when you first started learning, did you think, "Oh, one day I'm going to be fluent in teaching and be married to someone"? Not like that, but
Actually, I saw you in a dream.
oh, okay, that's
No, so yeah, I was around 7. And no, I did not think about being fluent or being a teacher. I just really liked having fun with those books, and I wanted to understand them and be able to follow the stories along. So
so you followed the stories, and then were you reading them out loud? Like, were you practicing your speaking? Did you talk to
yeah.
your sisters? Were they reading them?
Yes, so I don't know about my sisters. I know that later on they started learning, but we had a CD. Yeah, it was a CD,
Might have
and
even been a cassette
that's
tape.
what I was thinking. Maybe it
Yeah.
was a cassette tape. No, it was a CD. So they had the story written there, and they had a CD, and I loved how it sounded. So I wanted to be able to replicate that sound, and then I started listening and listening. I was like, oh, I can understand now because I can understand what they're saying, So I never had really problem reading because I started reading like, I remember this story about an ice cream shop, and I would read like ice cream shop. The little girl went there, and I would see like girl. That's how they say this GIRL together, And I never questioned like why, but this is not the sound. And it was just like a game, It was just like, oh, a new game, new
So it almost
rules.
came naturally to you because you were so young when you first started reading that you didn't
Yeah,
have to
yeah. I
unlearn.
think I was at that phase, where the kid's not asking why this is like that, or maybe I was just very accepting of rules. But it was just like natural to me. It's like, oh, okay, this is that sound, and that's that sound. So yeah, I think I saw it more like a game.
Wow. So when did you start speaking with other people, like your sisters?
Yeah. I remember speaking to my sisters. I remember really having conversations with them when I was around like 14, 14 to 15.
So it was a while before you started.
Yes, it's because we didn't get along
Oh,
before
okay.
then.
She has two younger sisters. So
Yes,
she's the
but
oldest.
yeah, so my focus was always more on reading. So I would read stories online, when internet became a thing, and before then I would just love having those pocket dictionaries. They're like, oh, take this dictionary with you if you go somewhere, and then they'll have the ready to go phrases like, oh, what color is da da da, or how much does da 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 cost, you know so I would love to see those and be like, oh wow, I like the sound of this. And then my cousin, I don't know how fluent she is nowadays, but we would play together, and speak in English together sometimes.
When you were a kid, or when you
Yeah,
were?
yeah, yeah. No, way before I talked to my sisters.
So you had some practice. What about shadowing or things like that? Did you ever practice like when you watched movies in
Yeah,
English and
so
then?
I started doing shadowing way early, right? With the CD, I would
Oh yeah.
listen to them and then repeat, and my goal is always to sound exactly like them. So, of course, I can't say if I succeeded, but I was only happy when I satisfied my own ears. I was like, oh, okay, I think I sound good enough, and then I would go to the next one. But I started doing shadowing like with videos way later in life, around I think also around 15. That's when I got my first like box of DVDs. I think.
From
Yes.
Blockbuster, probably.
No, 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 no. I bought him at a bookstore, and I think he was Supernatural.
Oh wow! Look at that.
So yeah, I would watch the.
She had a crush on one of them.
So I would watch.
Was it Sam or Dean?
Stop! He's obsessed with this. No, no crush on anybody.
There's Sam. He's like 6'5".
Oh my goodness.
I'm scraping 5'9", maybe.
So it makes more sense if I had a crush on Dean,
Yeah.
right? So, anyways, That's not the point here. The point is that's when I started really challenging myself, I think, because before that I would read a lot in English, but I would never really watch stuff only in English, like focusing on like, oh, can I understand this? But then I bought those DVDs, and then I started um, challenging myself, being like, oh, am I able to? Because I don't know if I watched them first with subtitles in Portuguese, and then after that I was like, wow, I think I am able to understand this. And then I watched it all over again.
What was your main learning method during this time where?
I will say that I love the language. So I would talk to myself in English. I would talk to the mirror in English. I would put stickers around the house in English, to things that I want. I had a little, what's the word, personal dictionary where I would add words and phrases and things that I was thinking like, oh, how can I say this in English? And then I would write how I thought it was said. And then it's funny because at some point in my life, when I was older, I came across a few notes of mine, and it was like, wow, this is so wrong. Like
Really?
the phrase was like very wrong, but it's funny because it showed like how brave I was, like how courageous I was, and I was like, wow, I'm just gonna write how I think it is, and then later on I'm gonna see. And
Like a literally translated thing that shouldn't be literally translated.
yeah, maybe so. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was something that is like you could clearly see that I was not copying from a dictionary.
Oh yeah.
So I think that was great for my develop because it helps you like with critical thinking and your building of the knowledge of that language in your mind. So yeah, I remember doing that too. So lots of listening, not never with music. You can put me to listen to music today and I might not understand anything because I never really think about, oh, following the lyrics, or oh, can I understand what this person's saying? Music to me is something else.
Oh
I'm like,
wow, what an interesting! I didn't even know this. Really?
no, yeah, music to me, unless I'm really trying to learn the lyrics,
Yeah,
I would
she can sing along with songs in Korean and
well, but that's the thing. Like,
Norwegian and
because
Icelandic.
it's because I'm reading along, or I have read along enough times to remember.
Okay.
It's not because I'm a genius. No, some songs I will just like because song. Every person, deals with that differently. For me, songs is like the beat and the all of it, not just the lyrics. So I never really thought about that. But yeah, lots of listening, lots of reading. That's the thing that I was most confident with from the beginning. But I only bought my first book only in English, my novel, my first big novel, when I was around 18.
So
Before then, I would only read online, so I never knew like how long the stories
when you
were.
read online, was it articles or?
It was anything that I could come across that interested me.
Okay, so it could have
So
been.
I would read animes, I would read books, like also online, but I cannot remember the
Okay.
how long they were.
What was the first novel you got?
P.S. I Love You.
Really?
Yeah, I love Cecilia Arn. I still don't know how to say her name, but yeah, the writer. And I had watched that movie, and I had read somewhere that for you to read something in English, like in another language that you're learning, you should, if it's your first book, you should choose someone that you're familiar with. So that was my thought. It's like, okay, I'm familiar with this book. I like the story, so that's what I'm gonna do, and I love it. Unfortunately, I don't have it anymore. I gave it to one of my students, and she never gave it back. So, anyways, but yeah, I had so many notes on that book. Like you could see, more than half the page was like full of red little notes that I would, write on the side of the pages, and also my little notebooks. But yeah, that was my first one, and then I really liked her style, and then I bought like I don't know another 5 or 7 books
Oh wow.
first, and others. Yeah.
So by the time you were reading your first novel, what would you say your level was? Like in terms of were you communicating
Oh well,
pretty well with people? Or?
I think yes, because I don't. When you had, I don't know if it's around that time, but there was chat roulette and Amigo.
Oh yeah.
Those two things. And I know that sounds really bad, but back the time, they were not like they were becoming bad. I think but you could still like meet people and make friends. I think I don't know, but yeah, I think I would talk to people like hardly ever alone. It was more like with my friends, close to us, so you would have fun and be silly. But yeah, I think I would communicate sometimes with people, but yeah, I was more. The first time I talked to someone in English, like in person, I think it was in 2014.
Oh wow! So 9 years ago, you were 20, right?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, not possibly 20. I think possibly 9 years ago. That's I think what it was. Yeah.
Like to get to that level, did you have goals that you set for yourself in
Well,
terms of, oh, I want to be this level by this time?
so I never thought of levels because
Uh,
since it was
not,
something that I liked so much,
yeah,
it was just more like, oh, I want to be able to read this book. I want
that's
to
what
be
I
able to
mean.
understand all of these
A
words.
certain goal you had.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was all. Like my goals were like, oh, a new show that I was watching. I was like, I want to be able to understand all the new words, or I want to be able to use all the new words that I can come across. You know, so I would mentally take notes, and but that's the thing. Like at some point, I stopped taking notes, and I would just watch them. And here's something that I think is very helpful too for other people learning any language,
Here we go.
is uh, whenever you're watching something, of course, sometimes you are going to study actively, but if you're just watching something for fun and you already are at that level that you can understand stuff, uh, a great tip for you to learn like some word that's meaningful for you and not just any word in the world is like you're watching that show and then you're gonna see this word and that's gonna ring a bell. You know, you're gonna oh, you're gonna remember that later. So you're gonna remember where you watch, where you saw the word, why the word like stuck in your mind, why you thought it was important, and in what situations you could possibly use that word. So these are a few of the um, check marks, checklists.
Yeah, the bullet point or
Yeah, these are the little boxes you have to check. Like, oh,
uh-huh.
what should I learn this word or should I just skip to the next one? You know, because I mean, I watched Grey's Anatomy, not all of it. I watched some of it, but can you imagine if I would stop if I had stopped
Yeah.
to learn every word because they use a bunch of like medical terms. You know,
That's
that would be useless to me.
yeah. I'm reading a book like that now where he's it's like from written in the 50s.
Yeah.
Some of the words I see that I don't understand, I always highlight the words that I don't understand, but some I just skip over because I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't even use that word in English.
Yeah, but and that's the good tip because you don't
Yeah.
want to learn every single word. You know, some words are not important.
Yeah.
You know, there are words sometimes you ask me words in Portuguese for wherever you're reading, and I'm like, I don't know. I just know that I understand that word in the context, and I just, you know, move along.
Yeah.
So that's a tip. Don't waste your time with words just because you don't know them. You know, think if you're why they're important, why they could be important. You know, the scenario that you could use them or that you are going to use them, and how they would fit in your life.
If
know.
you read enough, you'll still
Yeah,
remember the
you would,
word.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, I feel the same way. I only want to be able to. I only want to focus on the vocabulary of.
Because
that
you are gonna
I'm
end
gonna
up learning
use.
sometime if you read enough or if you come across the word enough times. You know, just don't worry about stuff that are not part of your daily life. You know.
If the first conversation you had in person was when you were 20, when did you like a regular? Did you ever have like regular interactions in English while you were still in Brazil with friends? Because I've met some of your friends; they speak
Yeah.
English. So did you guys? Obviously, you speak Portuguese. Do you guys ever speak to each other in English? And did that help? If you
No, I think no. I'd never had friends to speak to in English like that. I did that to my sisters, but I would always speak in English to myself. So I would always be practicing, and I would always be putting myself to tests. So I knew that I was able to. You know, I always read a lot. I always uh, listened to things and talked to myself, and also not only talk to myself, but assessed. You know what I was talking about. So I would listen to myself later on. You know, on your phone has the recorder.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I would do that. So
So that's really how you learned was just talking
Oh,
to
yeah.
yourself.
doing all that, not only talking. You know, I would always practice all the skills like listening, speaking, reading, and writing too.
But in terms of like speaking practice.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
I could say that. I cannot say that only that because I talk to my sisters and I might have talked to other people, but not regularly. No.
So when was the first time you had regular English interaction?
After I went to my interview for
As like-
Emirates.
Oh,
yeah, that was the first time I spoke a lot in English, like, you know, in a short period of time. So the whole interview is in English, and you go to a place, only Brazilians mostly. I think there was actually someone from another country there, but mostly Brazilians, but you always have to speak in English. Because, you know, the recruiters might be close to you, or, you know, and also to practice, obviously, you want to.
When was that?
I don't remember.
No,
So, yeah,
how long
it was 3 days of interview.
had you been preparing? It was that part of the reason why you really wanted to.
No, I never really thought about that until one day I decided to try to become a flight attendant.
You just randomly tried to become a flight attendant?
No, there was some influence from other people. But
Were you dating a pilot or something?
yeah, I dated a pilot at some point in my life. But then, yeah,
Oh wow,
but
that's
but
what
it was
it
not.
was.
But it's not because of the pilot. You know, it was after that the pilot.
Okay,
You know,
and you wanted to work for Emirates.
yes,
That's pretty
the
prestigious.
pilot did not work for Emirates.
Okay,
But yeah, so after that, it was like 3 days of. Anyways, I didn't know much about the company. That was really funny. But yeah, I just read about it. Oh wow, I think I have what it takes. And then I got to the final interview and everything. But in the end, you know, when you're like, oh, waiting for a golden call or just like a letter, I just got the letter. So sad. And then that's when I decided to go to school, like to go back to school and study English in college.
the Emirates failure turned you into an English teacher.
Yep.
No, it's not a failure. It's just
It is a failure. I was heartbroken.
yeah, but I mean, you made it a long way. That's a hard. It's like one of the hardest airlines to get into,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
This is another topic for another time. But in Brazil, to be a flight attendant, you have to be like a survival expert. It's not. And in the U.S., I know that it is not even close to anything like that. Like you need to be able to pass a customer service test, but they get dropped off in the middle of the jungle, have to
Yeah.
drink chicken blood.
Oh my gosh, don't remind me of that thing.
It's gnarly. I thought it was a joke when I've heard
No,
other people say the same
That's-
thing. So
yeah, but next year that's gonna end.
really,
Yeah,
you,
that's not gonna be mandatory anymore.
you just have to go
You're
to the
just gonna do
jungle
the
and
same. No, no, no.
starve.
You're just gonna have to do the same thing as everybody else in the world. I think.
Oh wow, I'm disappointed because
Yeah.
I was really. You're at ease when you're on a Brazilian flight because you think, oh, if I go down
You
in
just
the
have
middle.
to ask the person: Did you graduate? Did you start working before or after this year?
Yeah, pre 2023 or no?
Yeah.
When you started teaching at Aslan, and I know that you were an English teacher, but I know
Yeah.
that in a lot of countries there are English teachers that really don't.
Mm-hmm.
They teach it competently, but they don't really know
Yeah, this
how
is
to
not.
communicate really well with people. They just know how to teach the language.
Yeah, and this is actually not a requirement for you to be fluent in the language here to teach it. You know, so
Did it help
just-
you?
yeah, it was. I was very comfortable in that course, very comfortable. So the only things that I had to, you know, do something for was like not for the English lessons at all. I actually skipped them.
Oh gosh.
Not because I was a bad student. No, I was past that phase. It's just because they had a test like, oh, if you're past this level of fluency or if you have a TOEFL test like results, you can just bring it to us. And then I was already a C1 at that time. Not C1, I wish. B2, I think, at that time. And then after that, I became C1.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when you were teaching, did you have like a language? Since you used Omegle and Chat Roulette, were you using any like language learning? I don't know, forums or something where you and other English. Did you ever have communication with other teachers so that you could practice it all?
No, after Omegle, like Chat Roulette went down before Omegle, but I think
You have the history.
yeah, but I mean, I don't really know if it went down. I just know that everybody like stopped using it, you know, because it was too creepy. And then after a while, we just stopped using Omegle as well. Like I stopped using Omegle, and I just stuck to Facebook like groups. You know, whoever has things in common would talk to you. Like I still have a friend. She's from Greece. Shout out to Focini.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she was like, I don't know, 4 years younger than me, but we all liked anime, so we would talk, you know. And it was so impressive because like I'm confident speaking English most of the time, but she was so fluent, and I was like, my God, I don't even know how to say any word to this girl, And I was like, I'm sorry, me wants milk. It's like, it was just so bad. That was
Really?
like, yeah. And I was like, why does this happen? Because I was already a teacher. I don't know if I started being friends with her after I was a teacher or not, but I was very curious. And then it was just I was just I came to the conclusion that it was just because I had never met someone that was that fluent. There was like, really talking with no like or the Brazilian accent that I was very used to.
Mm.
So I think that's, of course, I had talked to the recruiters at Emirates, but it was not the same thing. So that was a test to me. That was like way more challenging than anything else.
When do you think you were fluent? Was there a time where you just kind of said, like, I've lived in Brazil for 2.5 years, and I would not say I'm fluent in Portuguese. I would say I'm conversational. I can talk to people and I understand people, but I still don't even think I'm fluent. So,
Okay.
was there an age or a certain time that you
I
just
think the first time that I talked to someone that it was in Rio, I gave directions to this French person, and then after a while we met this French person again, and I was able to carry conversation. I was very comfortable. So, and then I met more people. So this was during the World Cup. I don't know when that was.
Oh,
The World Cup that happened in Brazil.
it's 2014. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, 2014. That's when.
you've kind of discovered you were fluent.
Yes, I kind of, yeah. Not discovered because I was not like, oh, am I fluent? I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah, but you kind of have to because you have to be tested in some way. You
Yeah.
have to. You can't just think to yourself, "Oh, I know how to read," and I talk to
So
myself.
I will say then, if that's the case, I think that, of course, before speaking, I thought that I was fluent after I was able to read like all my books in English. Different levels I read. Your
Yeah.
favorite Pride and Prejudice, you know, and a bunch more, like all different genres and things like that. And then watch a bunch of movies too, different accents and um, different voices to speak in English. Like I really like this one band. They were British, and I could understand like most of them by the time they stopped being a band. It was like, oh wow, that's so sad. But I think that I knew I was more comfortable with English then. But then yes, I think I only thought to myself that I was fluent after I started talking to those people after 2014.
So about 9 years.
Yeah, but it's not because I was always thinking, oh, am I or am I not? It's just like that never really came to my mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you learned English. I know that you had help with your sisters and stuff, but you were very self-taught, and it wasn't formal lessons that you took 3 hours a week for your whole childhood. Like I know a lot of kids have, teachers that come to their home or they do classes online. So if there's, I don't know if someone listening to this is in a situation where you don't have the ability to speak, just like don't have classes you can take, what do you think that they?
Could do to
Yeah,
learn.
exactly. To
Oh, I think the first thing is don't really think about the end goal. That's always frustrating because you're always gonna think you are not that close. Like if you want to be, example, if I wanted to be a C2 level, like TOEFL test C2 level, uh, I would probably be nervous, and be always evaluating myself. But if I'm just thinking, oh wow, am I able to understand this book, or am I able to understand this documentary? These are goals that you can easily achieve, without the pressure of a test. And I will speak, talk about TOEFL. It's about academic English, business English, academic English. I did not prepare for that test. It's like I was hired one day. It's like, oh, next week you have the test. It's like, oh, and then I got there and I was just like, that's so easy because it's like not because I knew the grammar. I learned like more about, the rules and stuff later, like how to apply them and things like that. Not how to apply, how to explain them and how to recognize them. But before that, it was just like when you know something is natural in one way and unnatural in another way, how the words would sound better, how the phrases would sound more natural. And that I completely give the full like credit to the books I would read. So I would read books written in by an Irish author, by a American author. My goodness, I was like, what is that? Yeah, Irish or English or British. I mean, American authors, and that helped because they speak like and write in different ways. And even just American authors, they might all have different styles. But anyways, the thing is, you can't if you read enough and if you're exposed enough to the language, you are going to understand that there is a natural way, to sound and to talk, and there is a way that is less natural. So I
It's
will say
true.
like, oh, can you please sit down instead of, oh, I don't know, please put your bottom on the couch or something. Some way that would be more more common in my language that is not in the other language. I don't know. I think it's just, because right now you teach English, you can explain more of the grammar, right? Right now, after you start teaching, that's correct. Same thing happened to me. Like, I knew how to use the language, not as well as you, obviously, but I didn't know how to explain why this or that. But I just knew like, oh, this is natural and this is not. So, and that's only because of books and documentary and things that I watched. But that can only happen for real if you like what you're doing. So if you're doing something just like, oh, just because I want a promotion at work, just because I want to do this and that, you're being motivated by the external factors, and that's way less powerful than something that comes from inside you. You know, if you're just like, I just like the journey, or if you find something that you like, that's always encouraged, because that's way more powerful than just money or just.
Well, thank you for sharing your. I found out new things. I didn't know that you had the motivation for the Emirates from. I'm just
I'm
kidding.
joking.
No, but say that Sammy's been a great help for me because she knows how tough it is to learn a language, and she's been helping me learn
Just
Portuguese.
yeah,
And I do a lot of the things that she mentioned, where
yeah.
shadowing and I read all the time.
Just before I finish, and since you mentioned that you're learning Portuguese, I think you had mentioned it before too. Uh, what are the things that you do nowadays that you think help you more? Just since we're talking about language learning right now.
Definitely reading, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I think it's more focus. Every time someone asks me, I mean, it's just natural. I want to ask that too. Like, how can I study her? How can I learn a language faster? And I think the only way to truly learn the fastest way is to have a hyper focus, to make sure that you're concentrating. Because I notice if I go run, sometimes I listen to a podcast, or I try to listen to mostly Brazilian. It's either Brazilian music or a Brazilian podcast. Everything is in Portuguese. And if I just kind of let my mind slip and I start thinking about work or just anything for a split second, I 1 minute goes by on a song or a podcast and I didn't hear anything. So it's not like your native tongue where you can just kind of mindlessly listen or watch something for entertainment. If you really want to study and learn something, you need to focus all of your attention on that, especially when you're listening to more than one person talk. One-on-one for me in Portuguese is pretty easy, but when I watch a movie, my goodness, I mean, I really, it makes a huge difference. I know it's pretty simple, like, oh, of course I have to focus. No, you have to pretend like, imagine you're getting up to bat and someone's throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastball. It's a lot different than if someone just lobs a ball in the air. Maybe you don't understand that analogy, but you want to be paying attention if you really want to learn quickly. My grandfather spoke 11 languages, and I'm just sure that he was able to hyper-focus.
It's also impressive because you've been here for less than 3 years, right?
Yeah, but that's a long time. I mean, I'm surrounded by
Well,
Brazilians, so
well, still there are people
I speak
that
English all day though, so that's my only
yeah,
excuse.
and there are people that live abroad, in another country for their
Send them
whole
back.
lives or
Send them back.
after lives and don't learn the language.
I'm kidding. All right, well, guys, that's going to do it for us today. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope you learned something from Sammy's journey. That's going to do it for us. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Have a great night.
Bye.